Welcome back to the Matchbook NFL Betting Podcast. Before we get going, we have a very late scratch, Suuma. It's been the talk of the NFL all week. There's been injuries in the NFL. We got an injury to Suuma. But fear not, folks, we're bringing in Matchbook's finest, Jesse May, to fill out the four-time box. Jesse, what's been going on, man? I haven't talked to you since the NFL Draft podcast.
I am not worthy. I have been so locked into the content on this podcast the last 2 weeks. You guys are superstars. I'm telling you, I'm even turning into Drew for the early lines and the halftime picks, man. I am so locked in right now. The content has been so smart, and Fabian's a superstar. I'm loving it. He had me. I had a buffet bet on the Buccaneers this weekend. Yeah, I went back 3 times, and because I got it at 9.5 after the podcast, then it went to 8.5, and I was like, okay. And then it was at 8, and look, that was a bad play. That third bite of the apple was a bad play, and I was out of my comfort zone on that third bite. And as you know, it all came down. We got very lucky. I don't think I deserved that win, but as Clint Eastwood said, deserves got nothing to do with it. So good week, good week, guys.
Ain't that the truth? True and sick. That's an ultimate compliment, by the way, from Jesse May, because he's actually in Central European time, so he's even an hour ahead of us. Yeah. So that's a real. He's staying up late, but what good for you this week. You were on a lot of good sides here. No, obviously, look, there was a lot of favors came on. Practically every favor, from what I could see, came on. But you're on the sides in a big way this week, and it was a profitable week too.
Yeah, there was one dog came home, and it was the Raiders. The autumn Raiders. Monday Night Football was a lot of fun, and really, it was just a fun week of betting. And you're right, the sides came through for me last week. It was exciting, and realistically, I feel like we have to be pretty aggressive adjusting our priors on some of these teams. In normal years, I would hang on and get like 3-4 weeks of information before I really went pretty heavily in terms of adjusting my priors. But because of all of these injuries, because of what we're seeing in terms of young players being asked to have really meaningful roles on some teams that we expected to be playoff contenders, I think you have to be pretty aggressive this year in adjusting. And it's going to lead to some overreactions, sure. But I don't think you can kick back and take some of your preseason projections, to war with you week 3, given how much these rosters have already changed and given what we've seen out of some of the young players in terms of, what inexperience has meant in terms of quality of play.
Adam Chernoff, it was kind of a weird one with the Arizona and Washington game. You backed the over there. It could have got up. It probably would have been an ultimate backdoor cover. Ron Rivera kind of screwed you. But I'll give credit where it was due. You were very adamant on the Colts -3. And was that the right side, or was it ever?
Yeah, at this point, I'm just waiting to see how many weeks you keep me on the podcast at this rate that I'm with the first 2 weeks of the season. Just getting killed, but hopefully week 3 is different.
Well, look, that's the way it is. You're sporting the silver and black. If you're watching us now live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and Jesse May is also sporting silver and black. You never know that these guys are Las Vegas fans in general, but it's great to see guys keep supporting that silver and black. Jesse, what were your bets like for week 2? You obviously kind of hit it at the top, but overall this season, what are you making of it so far?
Look, they've been great so far. Hey, Adam, look, I think your stuff has been really smart so far. You've been a little unlucky. It happens. I mean, We're trying to grind out, the best are trying to grind out a 3% edge here. And that means you're going to still lose guaranteed 47 out of 100 bets. So I keep just telling myself, be prepared to lose a bunch of bets. Do not, it's week 2. It's week 2. Your stuff's going to come good. I would believe that. And,
a lot of games left.
Yeah, a lot of games.
And and the Indianapolis stuff the first week, that was just hysterical, right? That'll happen to you. That'll happen.
I think, Adam, that's code for you'll be kept for another couple of weeks anyway. Jesse's made a ruling on that one. Still
I'll tell you, this is the premiere. This is the greatest. I shouldn't even. I'm going to just shut up because I just want to listen and hear. And this is a professional card this week. It's no easy pickings this week. I don't think.
Yeah, that's true.
Jesse, I've lost my screen sharing capabilities at the moment. Can you give us betting for the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens on Monday night? If you have them to hand. What are we looking at, Jess?
I have got them right here. This is a premier matchup, isn't it? And the Ravens are solid favorites. We're looking at around 1.51 on Matchbook and the money line for the Ravens. Chiefs at 2.76. That's around, I think, a 7-4 mark. The line is 3.5, slightly favoring the Chiefs, but that's a big line. And then that over now at 54. I know it opened around 51. And Drew, I knew you were flying in there because I heard about that. But 54, that's a big move, I imagine.
Yeah. Drew, I'll get to you in a second about the total, but Adam Chernoff, on week one, you touched on it with the Ravens. You were adamant that this is the best team in the league. They will progress even further this year. There's been a big move here. I know a couple of books opened at 1.5, maybe just for a couple of minutes, and that got steamed up to 2.5. No, up to 3.5. Is that the right side to be on for the Ravens here?
Certainly if you got it earlier, but enormous move going through the 3 from where it opened at 3.5. It's starting to look a little bit different, but a lot of this is just a reaction to KC in the first 2 weeks and how Baltimore has looked so great in the first 2 weeks. But it's really weird to see the Chiefs minus 0.4 net yards per play through 2 weeks so far this season. I question how much of that is due to the defensive schemes that they faced. Like they've gone against Weaver and Bradley, 2 guys that play a huge rate of cover 2 and cover 3. Like they were just playing not to get burned by the deep pass. And it shows through 2 weeks, KC just 1 explosive pass total. So they're right down to 4%. That's 31st in the NFL. A pretty stark contrast to what we've sort of been used to from this team. Gonna look a lot different against Wink Martindale and the Baltimore Ravens. That defensive scheme, much more man heavy. They've blitzed at the second highest rate. So again, a very big contrast to what they faced last week with the Chargers, who have blitzed at a league low through 2 weeks. So it's just going to look very different in terms of the looks that KC is going to get this week and the opportunities that they could potentially have against this Ravens defense in a man system where there's just more opportunity to get the bigger plays. Although talent coverage, like certainly an argument can be made that the Ravens a little bit better in that regard. But I'm going to be watching to see the status of Sammy Watkins. Got hit in the head, left the game last week. Without him on the field, the KC offense looked just like beyond options 1 and 2. They were just scrambling to find anything that they could. So the impact that Watkins had against Houston was enormous. Without him on the field against the Chargers, that was a very, very different look for the KC offense and sort of sticking with that tone. But I don't know how they're necessarily going to keep up with what the Ravens can do against this defensive scheme. KC, huge issues stopping the run. We've sort of become used to that being the case, but this year it's not getting any better. And now Breeland's still going to be out with the suspension, but they lose Ward and Hamilton last week. What's their status going to be? If those guys are banged up, then that means KC's only going to have 3 corners on their roster. They still haven't made any roster moves, which leads me to believe that Ward and Hamilton are going to play. But let's see how healthy they are going into this week against this Ravens offense. But still, this KC defense through 2 weeks, 24th in passing success rate defense, 31st in rushing success rate defense, and they've missed the second most tackles. The only team who has missed more tackles, the New York Jets. So against this Ravens team in this scheme, how well they block up front, that's an awfully scary proposition going into this week.
Drew Dinsick, just on that one, I suppose Adam hitting a lot of points in regards to KC defense, and we saw it last week. Justin Herbert coming in the very last minute, and they made him kind of look like Joe Montana there in the first half, especially. Probably caught up to him a bit in the fourth quarter. What are your thoughts here? This is, like Adam said, this is a big move, though, Drew, just to even get through that key number of 3.
Yeah, I don't think it's done either. If I had to make a prediction, I think on Monday kickoff, this is a 4.5 point spread. I'm seeing and hearing a lot of cases being made for Baltimore this week, and it's understandable. If you're going to make any adjustment to your preseason priors on these two teams, you're going to adjust Kansas City's defense down, and it's adjusting down in a way that plays into the strength of the Baltimore offense, which presents a game state where Kansas City is going to be consistently playing from behind. You're not talking about field goals in this one. You're talking about touchdowns. All of this led me to look for an early over just because I believe KC can answer. I have not adjusted their offensive prior at all. They're still the same team. Without Sammy Watkins matters absolutely.
lost Drew there for a second, I believe. That's okay. We will keep going. Adam, quickly come back to you on that one before Drew comes back in, which he will, no doubt. The total, Drew obviously played it up.
There he's back.
You're back with us, Drew Dinsick.
That point on Tammy Watkins was so key that it just...
Yeah, that's the point.
Sorry about that.
You're good, man. You're good. But yeah, I suppose to summarize, Drew, look, even with the total there, for example, 54, and we've seen a lot of steam come for, totals this week. But you're starting to get in towards kind of college football totals. We get towards mid-50s. And you just know that there are people going to bet this up to 54, 55, and maybe 56. But you played it at 51. I presume you won't be coming back in for more, even at this number.
Realistically, I think we could see this, comfortably home, by middle of the second half here. Because again, this is not a game that's going to be decided by field goals, in my opinion. This is going to be, Ravens scoring, driving and scoring relatively easily on this Kansas City defense, which is the soft unit. And Pat Mahomes is going to have to answer. And obviously, the defensive backfield for the Ravens is very, very strong. Marlon Humphreys is my second favorite cornerback across the entire league. He's got a nice matchup against Tyreek Hill, but Tyreek Hill's got speed, and he can hurt them in that regard. And you're going to see what this pass defense looks like without Earl Thomas against a unit that can actually pass for the first time this season. And that'll be a real test for these Ravens. I'm sad not to have a side here, just because this is the AFC Championship game we were promised last year and didn't get to actually realize. If I have to take a side, I'm waiting until kickoff, and I'm taking the 4.5 points with KC. I have a realistic hope that they can come back in this game. You're probably going to have a nice live opportunity if Baltimore scores a couple early, because KC can answer. To the degree the Ravens have a weakness, they are not great at stopping the run. And I think that's going to impact them in terms of, if Kansas City can ever get a lead in the fourth quarter of this game. So I would lean towards KC, being a live dog here, just on the strength of their offense. And, we haven't seen any of their advantage stuff yet. It's been pretty vanilla. Yeah. And that's largely been because that's what the defense has given them. But there's also likely some, keeping some of their best stuff in their back pocket for when they needed it most. And this is one of those games, because guess what? This probably decides who gets the first overall seed and the only bye this year in the AFC playoffs.
Right. Jesse, that's a tough one to call. I mean, you could kind of make a case here for Baltimore -3.5, or the Chiefs maybe if it gets to 4.5. But Jesse, are we going to lock in a play, Jess, or will we move on? Do you think this could be a no bet? Just watch the game. And Jesse's muted himself there. Great stuff. There you go.
I have trouble when the lines start moving that much against you, but just a quick question that's kind of related here. I think I saw that overs are winning at a 66% clip through the first 2 weeks. Are we thinking mega trend here or just variance? Because, these things are steam all over. Right?
I mean, my personal opinion is it will regress to the mean, but it's not going to happen week 3 or week 4. You have this weird schedule where this is kind of pseudo preseason. And weirdly, you look at the schedule, no divisional games this week, no divisional games next week. Travel is very balanced. Everybody has one home, one away. And so I would expect that this is still a scoring league, at least until you see more of an adjustment up. Average totals across the board week 1 were about 45.8, I think. It adjusted up to about 46.3. Week 2, it's about 47.5 now. So you are seeing the market reflect an adjustment up in total overall. But these matchups don't really inspire a lot of defensive confidence. And, I know you look at some of the key players who are out across the league, and you think of fantasy football and you're like, all these wide receivers and running backs are out. There's not going to be any scoring. But offenses are quite far ahead of defenses right now. And I would be surprised if this regresses so quickly. Although I do think by the time we get to midseason, we'll start to see a regression to the mean.
All right, Jesse, let's move on.
Yeah, let's go. You'd have to be a brave man to go under 54. And
no way.
Absolutely no way.
Ravens can score 54 by themselves.
Yeah, they could. Potentially, yeah. Potentially.
Did we see them score 54 against the Rams last year in prime time? I think they got 52. And the Rams got 7 or something? Was the final score in that one?
Seems about right, yeah, in my head. Jesse, let's move on. Sunday Night Football, Packers and Saints. They opened here, the Saints, as a 4.5-point favorite. Jesse, has there been money for the Packers though?
There has. It's down to 3. It's the big fraud against the big easy, and I don't really know. Will Green Bay get hit back down to earth? But they've been hitting hard right now. Packers around a plus 2.49 mark, and the Saints in the minus 160. The line is now even at 3, and the over/under at 51.5, gentlemen.
Drew, it was a good one to oppose the Saints on Monday night. Michael Thomas, big loss. It was weird, though, watching that game. The defense looked pretty good in the first quarter and most of the second quarter, and then they just absolutely exploded and made Derek Carr look like a top 10 QB. What are you thinking on this one? And there's obviously been a move back on the Packers. There's a bit of recency bias here. They blew us apart, the Vikings and the Lions. Are you buying it, though?
Yeah, I know it's interesting. I've backed the Packers twice this year. I faded the Saints last week, so this is an opportunity to either continue to ride that wave or to pivot on a dime. But I think the adjustment that the market has made and hanging this at Saints minus 3, I think is fair. So I'm going to stay away from the side here. In general, the Packers have exceeded expectations largely by exploiting extremely weak pass defenses. The fact that you have Devontae Adams as your primary weapon in the passing game, who is going to be limited in this one if he plays at all, going up against Marshawn Lattimore, who I find Marshawn Lattimore to be one of the better cornerbacks in the league. He can absolutely go toe-to-toe with Devontae Adams. And really, if he's got tight coverage on him, then it's not a matter of he's got to make the plays. Aaron Rodgers isn't going to throw the ball to Adams. Aaron Rodgers does not throw into tight windows if he doesn't have to. And so I think that really is going to create a one-dimensional offense here for the Packers, where they are largely going to lean on the run. And the Saints can be exploited to a degree on the ground. So this is, the Packers are probably coming into this one with a pretty heavy, offensive mindset. We're going to, dictate the pace of play. We're going to keep this thing on the ground. We're going to shorten the game to a degree. And I think the Saints probably feel the same way. You attack the Packers by with your ground game. And Drew Brees proved pretty obviously on Monday Night Football that he doesn't have the deep pass. And we've known that now for going on 18 months. So this is not a huge surprise. But it's still, without a fully functional passing game for the Saints, they're relatively one-dimensional as well. And I think this is probably going to be a ground game. This is probably going to be decided by whoever can make the key defensive stops late. And I swung hard on the under here. This is one of my only real. I played 2 unders this week. This one I think I like the best, though. It's 52 was absolutely silly on the open. 51.5 still has value in my opinion. And I think this is a game that's decided by field position and field goals. It is a relative, defensive masterpiece by both teams here, because this is, there's not a lot to really look at in terms of explosive firepower with either of these offenses in their current matchups. Just the limitations with some of the skill position players are notable as well. So a lot of rushing attempts, a short game, and under 51.5 here for me on the Packers.
Yeah, it's an interesting one there, Joe, because the look ahead for this one was actually 54.5. So that's after coming down in the space of 14 days. But 51.5 right now at Matchbook, you can back out just under 1.96. Adam Chernoff, what are your views here on this one? Is there an edge on the side for you, or would you be kind of happy enough to follow Drew in on under 51.5?
Yeah, I mean, just to carry on that, if there's a game where we sort of have concerns about the Saints without Michael Thomas, potential limitations, that if you've listened to the show, Drew and I last season, pretty adamant that Drew Brees' arm strength is a big issue. And now it's becoming like a sort of main spread topic that's being discussed nationally on media. But so we're starting to see that. So if all those concerns are real, the Michael Thomas absence is going to affect this team. If there's an opponent that you want to have for sort of a game where you can get right and work through some adjustments, it's the Green Bay Packers. 32nd in rush success rate defense so far this season. Just like last year, we saw they're just conceding opponents whatever they want to do on the ground. Saints, now they're going to have to lean on Kamara. Maybe they have a couple extra plays, some different looks added in because they saw what they did against the Raiders, despite winning that game in terms of yards per play by 2.5, still lose by 10. Some issues there offensively. This is the opponent that the Saints want to have. And we saw this number come down largely because of what the Packers did the first 2 weeks. But I just have questions there. Minnesota started an entirely new trio of cornerbacks, 3 of 4 new guys on the defensive line against the Packers. Aaron Rodgers just avoided the safeties, who were the only 2 guys returning on that defense. and just picked apart these young guys who now play for like the Minnesota defense has been downgraded as much as any other unit in the league. And I think that that's not going to be debated. And then last week, the Lions were without their two best defensive backs in coverage. So Rodgers and the Packers benefiting a lot. They score 85 points in 2 weeks. There's still 11 teams better than them in terms of net yards per play because of how much this defense has given up. And now, like you mentioned, Devontae Adams limited, probably at best. You're going to get him at 80% with that hamstring injury. St. Brown goes on IR. So there's another weapon that Rodgers has had that's not going to be available for this game. The step up in terms of defensive opponent is much higher against the Saints, who are still top 10 in defensive DVOA through these first 2 weeks against Tampa Bay, and then against Las Vegas, who like is a much better schedule of opponents than what the Green Bay Packers have faced. So big step up in class for Green Bay, a team that so many people were down on for a number of right reasons coming into the season. Now they're being adjusted. A major network had them third in the power ratings, which I was somewhat disgusted by and expressed my opinions on that. But I don't buy it. There's more issues here.
But it's just like that. Look, Adam, they're averaging 2 games. They played 2 woeful defenses. They're averaging 42.5 points per game, and people just get carried away. We're only into week 3. They're not adjusting for the fact that the Saints, let's be honest about it. Yes, they had a bit of a blowout in the second half against Raiders, but they still fundamentally got a very good defense. Yeah,
and the Packers, despite winning those 2 games by 85 points, they trailed into the second quarter in both of those games, interestingly enough. So I don't buy it. Saints -3.
For 51.5, Jess. This is a good one to be back in under in. I don't think there's too many unders we're going to be back in this week, Jess, but you liking that one?
I like the consensus. Yeah. I think, the handicappers, guys like Drew and Adam and Fabian, there's trends where they start to, it's not about whether you bet on or against a team, but you feel like you understand a team. And I think you guys, everything you've said about Green Bay in the last 2 weeks has been spot on. So I'm up for betting your opinion on this, on the Green Bay Packers.
I guess one quick note on Saints defense. You brought up a couple of times that they got exposed in the second half against the Raiders. Well, number one, the Raiders offense, when you have a comfortable and competent Derek Carr, is good. Like, they're a good offense. Like, they have a strong offensive line. They have a balanced attack. They have speed and skill at the wide receiver and tight end position, and that's a bad matchup for the Saints. And the Saints made Carr look bad in the first half when they got interior pressure. And the minute that the Raiders made a couple of adjustments, got Carr a little bit more time and a little bit more comfort in the pocket, he picked them apart. And Derek Carr is a Jekyll and Hyde kind of a quarterback. Like, he'll give you Dr. Jekyll in a clean pocket, and he'll give you Mr. Hyde if he's feeling any kind of pressure up the middle. And the minute the Saints couldn't generate that, it was game over. And they got a pretty friendly pretty friendly whistle too. Like, some of those PI calls on third downs that extended drives for the Raiders were favorable for Vegas. I'll say that.
125 penalty yards for the Saints.
Yeah, and a lot of a disproportionate amount that were automatic first down.
Not like anything ever to happen. Fishy happen in Vegas, just let's move on to
the house needed a dog. I don't know if they wanted Vegas, but they definitely needed a dog last week.
Absolutely needed a dog. Yeah, it was absolute carnage for week 2 for the vast majority of sports books. Jesse, Cowboys against Seahawks. Let's move on, sir. What are we looking at here? Seahawks open -3. That's been smashed, Jesse. They're all in the Seahawks again this week. And he's muted. There you come on, Jesse. Unmute.
Got the double mute. There has been so much line movement early in the week in this league in the first 2 weeks. But I don't know which of these teams I dislike more, but I will watch this game all day long. This is going to be, I think, the kind of football I really will enjoy watching. -5 to the Seattle Seahawks right now. That's the line kind of even out. And you can get 3.0, 2-1 on Dallas Cowboys right now, with the over-under at a whopping 56. That must be the biggest over-under total of the week.
It's the biggest of the season, to my mind, from what I can remember. Adam Chernoff, we talk about these high total games in the past, and you're definitely, there's no point backing Dallas +5 if the total is 56, and you can get over 2-1 on the odds. Is there an opportunity to get with Dallas here? You were very unlucky with your pick on Atlanta last week in the underdog one. Dallas, I don't know how they won that game. We still know their defense is brutal. They're going against the top quarterback in the league right now. Maybe it's a good spot. Or tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong that there's no chance here for Dallas.
Unlucky is an interesting way to describe that result with the Falcons last week. I have some stronger words that I could use for that one.
Impossible.
Who's stopping anyone in this game? I don't know. Like, if the Seattle Seahawks defense plays as we saw it against the New England Patriots and Cam Newton, I think that the 79 points that the Falcons and the Cowboys put up is probably going to look pretty shy compared to what these two teams can potentially put up. Both teams through 2 weeks, 20th or worse in coverage grade, worse than 18th, both of them in passing success rate defense. Dallas has allowed the second most explosive passes against Seattle, the 9th. The only sort of, we're looking at an enormous total. I don't know if it's big enough. My one question here is who's ultimately going to control the pace. Dallas, by far and away the fastest team in the NFL, 19 seconds snap to snap. When they're trailing, that gets even quicker. Like, they're just playing at a ridiculous pace through the first 2 weeks of the season. Seattle, on the other hand, dead last in terms of pace. They're playing slower than any other team. They're just being ridiculously efficient in every single thing that they're doing. So if this is a case where Seattle gets ahead, like, how much does that ultimately change the pace overall within this game if they're able to control it? Because the Cowboys linebacker situation and what they're doing up front against opposing running backs is very problematic. And this is going to be their most difficult test against Seattle in that regard. So, like, this is a case where we might see some longer drives. And when you're dealing with a total this high, that becomes really difficult. But the Cowboys, we're seeing it. We saw it week 1. Enormous amounts of money came against them late, favoring the Rams, brought that number way down. Last week, tons of money came in on the Falcons, brought that number way down. Saw how that one ultimately played out. For a third week in a row, money coming heavily against the Dallas Cowboys. Tons of support here for Seattle. Pretty clear what the market thinks of the preseason expectations for the Cowboys and where this team is now. So many more questions with Dallas than Seattle. I get the money coming in on the Seahawks. I would love to get to the over here, but I think that pace situation is going to be interesting considering how I think the side is going to play out. So probably a no bet for me, but pretty clear in terms of how you want to handicap this side or total.
Yeah, Drew, Adam hit on a lot of it there. I mean, even early in the week in an NFL season, to move a line from a flat 3 through to 5, it's pretty substantial.
It is, and I think the early, but this looks like. I almost feel like this is a new phenomenon we're seeing where it's like a delayed steam chase almost. Like somebody saw pretty obviously that there was an appetite to fade Dallas 2 weeks in a row late, and it was strong. Like those were meaningful plays and moves against, with the Rams against the Cowboys and with the Falcons against the Cowboys. And they're trying to get ahead of it this week is my guess. Like, this isn't people that are originating the same action. I don't think this is people who are like, wow, I mean, somebody's going to come back to the well at some point and bet Seattle. I'm going to get the good number now before it gets to, 5, 6, whatever. I'm inclined to think that this is an overreaction. In general, I feel very lucky to have won a Seattle wager last week. That came down inexplicably in the same way that, it was inexplicable that the Falcons lost that game. It was inexplicable that the Patriots had a chance.
You were very bullish on Seattle. What's your halftime Periscope? You were exceptionally bullish.
I did not. I didn't. Number one, I was under appreciating the Cam Newton's ability to throw the ball down the field. Yep. He's got it. And number two, I didn't think that the Patriots defense really had any answer to stop Russell Wilson, and they didn't. But Pete Carroll sure the hell did. And 3rd and 1, rather than just gain the first down and put away the game, he's like gets real frisky and calls this deep ball that that really had no no role in the overall winning of that game. Give Cam Newton one last chance. Put your defense out there that can't in any way, shape, or form rush the passer and is barely able to stop Cam Newton from picking up whatever he wants on the ground. And give them one more shot was crazy. And I think it just speaks to the DNA of Seattle. Like, they're a cardiac team. They don't know how to play a comfortable win in a game where they're the better team. And I think that is going to come into play in this one here, because the Cowboys can absolutely come back against any team. The Cowboys have the most diverse set of passing weapons in the game right now with their 3 wide receiver set. Dak Prescott is clicking. Their offensive line is a little bit of a problem with the injuries they sustained, but it's not like Seattle can exploit that because they have no pass rush. So Dallas is going to score here, and they're going to put pressure on Seattle. And if Pete Carroll is not calling the game, in a way that gives Seattle the advantage here, then Dallas could steal this one. And I haven't made a play on this one yet, but I'm waiting for this to get to 6. If it does, I'm taking the points, and I'm gonna enjoy a good back and forth scoring contest. I don't see how this is a one-sided one in any way, shape, or form.
We've one question in for now. We've a lot of questions, and do get your questions in if you're watching us now live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Chartel on Twitter, any shot at seeing a 6 with Dallas? We hope so, Drew. Well, you hope so, but it sounds things.
Yeah,
if the money's coming now, it probably will come again on Thursday and Friday and possibly Saturday.
Yeah, I mean the Cowboys, their defense is bad. That's not a debate. They have a difficulty stopping the run, which is kind of the kiss of death in the NFL. But I don't know that this game warrants a 6, because the Cowboys can go score for score. And we saw that they don't have any quit in them. For all of you want to kind of hang a lot of that loss, I think, on the Falcons, the way that they called that game, the way that their coach specifically, had his players coached up. I would still say that Cowboys not quitting and having the goods at the end was pretty impressive to me. So I'm hopeful we see a 6. I'll take it if we see it. Otherwise, I'm going to steer clear of this one.
Just before we come off this, guys, 56 the total. Like Adam said, it's hard to see any stops, but that's a hell of a high total. The clip is, like you said, Adam, if there's any bit of a slowdown in any area, 1 or 2 turnovers that don't turn into a pick 6 or whatnot, you can get this bet beaten very quickly.
Yeah, that's a high number.
It is a high number. I don't think it's one that we want to play, but it's a funny one. I don't know if I want to be back in the under here either. It might be just very much it's one hide behind the couch. Let's move on, gentlemen, to one of the early games on Sunday evening, the Rams against the Bills. Quite a fascinating line, this one, Jesse May. In my head, I thought this would be a pick-em, but the market is saying otherwise.
I'll need a bet to watch this one. Rams against the Bills. Bills are 2.5-point favorites. The Rams on the money line, 2.22, around 1.7, around 4 to 5, a little better, a little worse if you're betting the Bills. And that 2.5 line, slightly shading towards the Rams. Over under at 47.5.
There's been a big move on that open of 44.5. Jesse, I'm going to disagree with you. I think this is one of the early better games here. Anyway, Drew, what are you thinking with this one? Rams, a dog in this spot. The Bills haven't played much. Are the Bills a small bit overrated here?
I mean, buckle up, guys, because we are one game away from the Josh Allen MVP hype train being a real thing.
No, don't say that. Don't say that.
You see, that's what I'm talking about.
Realistically, though, I think I have to take a step back. Josh Allen, he's not playing at an MVP level, in my opinion, but he has an absolute dynamic set of receiving weapons. With the addition of Stephon Diggs, with John Brown, with Beasley, with the scheme that they run under Brian Daboll, it's a really good offense. It's solid in every way, shape, and form. They are going to be a very tough test for some of the better teams in this league. And so you have to ask the question: are the Rams one of the better teams in this league? Jared Goff has performed well through 2 weeks, but the scheme is largely it's starting to seem somewhat predictable, in my opinion. At least it's got all of the hallmarks of a Sean McVay system. He's just made a couple of small adjustments and two, in the same exact kind. I won't steal Adam's point because I think I know where he's going to go with this, which is the Goff checklist. They lost an interior lineman in Noteboom. He won't be available for this game. Ed Oliver's playing well on the defensive line for the Buffalo Bills. That's a matchup I'm going to be watching pretty closely, because if you can generate some interior pressure on Goff, I think they can make him look bad. And I think that the Rams defense overall is susceptible they're stars and scrubs. Aaron Donald, absolutely. If you can put two hats on him and take him out of the game, and if you can throw away from Jalen Ramsey, I don't see why the Buffalo Bills can't get into the mid to high 20s here and really put some pressure on the Rams. And at that point, the Rams, they're ailing a bit. They picked up a couple of injuries around the perimeter. Not guys you would necessarily know or obviously identify on the injury report. But when your team is as thin as the Rams are, that could be problematic. And they're now making this, 2 trips across the country, something that I always kind of huge red flag in terms of getting involved with the team. I'm happy having under a key number of 3 here for the Buffalo Bills, because I do think they're the better team. I do think they come away with this 3-0. And, I get it. They haven't played anyone. I get it. The Rams are a better team than a lot of people thought coming into this season. But there are a couple of key matchups in this one, notably Ed Oliver against this interior offensive line that I think can be differentiating factors. And Stephon Diggs and John Brown, those are 2 guys that can get deep. Maybe you're not going to connect on every single home run attempt if, you're as inaccurate as Josh Allen is, but he'll get a couple. And that may be a differentiating factor here in terms of scoring, which I think gives the Bills an advantage.
Adam Chernoff, are we going to do a Jared Goff checklist, perhaps? Maybe? Are we going to
It has to happen every time you're doing it. Is he on the road? Is he laying points? And is he under pressure? And he's not laying points. He definitely is on the road in the tough spot. And he's likely going to be under pressure. I don't know how they were able to avoid that last week against the Philadelphia Eagles and that defensive line, which finally was healthy for the first time in a very long time. But a lot of the new names of starters, Hargrave was back, and the Eagles just couldn't generate anything. And the play calling from McVay in the first half was phenomenal. And the Rams are another team, they're getting a ton of support every week. First week, they get a 3.5-point move in their favor. Last week went through the key number, and then this week it's coming off the key number too. So people are certainly supporting the Rams, and I think they're seeing a lot of what McVay is doing is helping to protect Goff in these pressure situations, using heavier sets. They found the running game again, so it's alleviating some of those issues that Goff faces when he's forced to be in the pocket, throwing under pressure. Where this gets interesting to me is I look at both of these teams. Both are north of 0.2 EPA per play on offense. Those are both top 5 numbers. 3rd and 7th in offensive DVOA. 1st and 3rd in explosive pass rate. Both grade out top 10 in passing grade for the first 2 weeks. And both are top 6 in offensive yards per play. Both of these teams are shaping up to be pretty sustainable over teams, at least for the short-term future here, the way that both of these teams are playing and how they're getting their offense to work. There's caveats with the Bills. Certainly, it's not going to look the same against the Dolphins and the Jets every single week and what you're able to produce offensively. Mm-hmm. But the Rams were a defense that I and a lot of people that I respect were very low on coming into the season. And that week 1 game against the Cowboys gave up a ton of yardage and a ton of opportunities the Cowboys were not able to capitalize. Even last week, as bad as Carson Wentz, who looked horrible, and this Eagles offense team looked for the duration of the game, there was still that drive in the 3rd quarter where Wentz threw the INT that the Eagles were potentially going to go over 20 points and take the lead midway through that 3rd quarter after looking like they were buried. So there's plenty of potential to move the ball against this Rams defense, which beyond Ramsey and Donald is not extremely good in any position. So I think that the Bills can certainly exploit these linebackers. They can take advantage of different corners across the field. And I'm giving a ton of credit to Brian Daboll, more so than I am Josh Allen. Drew can say bad things about Josh Allen and he gets away with it. I say it and I just get killed. So I have to learn how to present this.
You're a different audience. You're a different audience.
To present this in a better manner. But
I just said MVP and Josh Allen in the same sentence. I don't know what you heard.
But they strong disagreement.
You got to remember, there's a far bigger Canadian fan base for the Bills than there is in California. So your audience is slightly different than Drew. Look, that's my theory, I know.
I'm giving the credit to Brian Daboll. Look, if we're looking at expected completion percentage, which is a representation of a number of things, but it basically illustrates how good the scheme is at getting wide receivers open. It's up 8% in the first 2 weeks for Josh Allen and this Bills offense, which is greater versus last season than any other team in the NFL so far. Josh Allen is 1% above expectation. So he's having these great numbers, but he's playing to what any average quarterback in his situation would do. There's opportunities to excel with how easy everything is being made for him, but he just hasn't gone out and done it yet, despite putting up these numbers. But it's all relative to the schedule you face. So point I'm getting at here, long-winded, two teams I think played to the over, but I'm looking at this Rams defense, which I think is just as bad as the first two defenses that this Bills team has faced in the opening 2 weeks, but is maybe coming in looking a little bit better than they should. I think we saw that with the initial number. There was the disagreement with that. The points go up. If the hurricane that's on the East Coast stays out and these wind forecasts stay down, I think that this is a clear-cut over with both of these two teams.
All right, 47.5. So we get to 48. We'd be happy enough there, Jesse made that.
What do you like best, Sully? What do you like about this game? You're a Bills man now, are you?
Oh, how can I be a Bills man? I'm a Jets fan. I have my own problems in life. Do I really want to go to Western New York and just pick them? I mean, like, I'm Brian Daboll used to be an offense coordinator with Jets too. I don't know. I'm not totally buying them just yet. I honestly did think the Rams was close to a pick 'em, but this is why we have these guys on to tell me otherwise. I do like the look of this over though, and I think if you're making the case for even the Bills there as well, you may look at a team total over for the Bills. I have a lovely team total coming up later for my best bet, guys. You're going to love this one. So we'll keep that for a while. But maybe the Bills team total, Jess. But yeah, I like the over there. And I'm going to, Drew, you like -2.5 Bills?
Yeah, give me anything under the key number, and anything under the key number 3, I'm down.
I like both these guys' looks. Just really quickly, are both these numbers settling here, or are we could we get it better if we wait? If we're thinking over,
I'm gonna just cut in right a second, because just right now at Matchbook that main line has moved to 48, a flat 48. So that'll tell you. So I don't know. There's still going to be plenty of 47.5.
It's completely based on the wind, and the hurricane was supposed to make landfall or what have you yesterday. Yeah. It's delayed, so now people are looking at the wind, 25 miles per hour. Anytime it's over 20, the totals drop. Yep. Regardless, it just gets blind respect. But we'll see.
All right, plenty 47.5, but you have to go down to 1.91 now to buy it at Matchbook. But that's why we do these early in the week rather than later in the week. Okay, Jess, I think we'll do a quick recap before we get to any other bets. I think we may have, or those 4 games, we may actually only have about 3 bets. So I think under 51.5 the Packers and the Saints seems to be a consensus. Bills -2.5, and let's still take 47.5 on the over there. The other 2 games, Chiefs and Ravens, bit of a back and forth, could be a bit of a watching brief. Cowboys and Seahawks, none of us want to back under 56, but nor do we want to back over 56. And that line probably with the Seahawks a bit bigger. So I just think as right now with those 4 games, let's officially go with those 3 picks, and we will go to any other bets. Any objections there, guys? Happy enough? There was nothing else missing? Good stuff. Let's roll on.
Totally agree. Patience is key. And, if you are patient, you might get one of those late moves that both Adam and Drew are talking about, and get on at a number you really like, or else.
There you absolutely.
Yeah. I think only in summary, just I very much expect that Chiefs number to continue to grow. So if you like the Chiefs, absolutely no rush. Yeah.
Okay, wait until Monday night for the Chiefs number review, and probably similar with the Cowboys as well if you want to get to 6. Drew Dinsick, anything else on the card outside of your best bet that is catching your eye this week?
I got a lot.
Give me one or two.
I played Tennessee at -2. Minnesota's defense, as Adam mentioned, biggest downgrade across any unit that wasn't injury related. That's the biggest change in my prior relative to what
they're so bad.
Minnesota's not a 9-7 team like the preseason win total market would have told you. This is a team that's struggling in every aspect in every way. And Tennessee is a team that I think can put a ton of offensive pressure on them. Indianapolis, as comfortable as a cover as that was for the Colts backers last week, they should have scored 40 in that one. They had so many opportunities with short fields, and they chose to wind down the clock instead of really go for the jugular, which is fine. Like they won comfortably, so who cares? But I don't think Tennessee's going to have any resistance. And I absolutely love what they're doing on offense right now. Ryan Tannehill absolutely putting on a nice early season show here. I also have a look on the under in Denver. I'm on an under 44.5. It's down to 43.5. I still think that's a fair underplay. What Denver's going to have to do to pivot their offense in the absence of Drew Lock and inserting Jeff Driscoll, I think they're going to lean pretty heavily on kind of a balanced or rushing heavy attack, which is a disaster up against a team like Tampa Bay, who is so good at stopping the run. Tampa Bay's defense overall, I think, is extremely good, even though it was a little bit of a last-second cover for them against the Panthers. The what we saw in the first half of that game, which was just a complete and total defensive mastery, I think speaks more to the strength and ability of that team. And I think Denver's defense has been surprisingly decent as well through 2 weeks, and then Tom Brady doesn't really scare me at altitude with some of the injuries that are going on across that skill set. So that unders is on the cards for me, and I think I'll save the rest for our dog discussion.
Good stuff, Adam Chernoff. Anything else jumping out at you on the week 3 card?
I got nothing, and that's probably best considering the way that week 1 and 2 have gone.
Look, it's third week lucky. We'll be fine. I do like that Tennessee pick. That was another one that just jumped out at me. It's staying. I think, Jesse, you can back Tennessee -2.5 at the moment, so I think that's probably not a bad one.
You can. I fired on that early as well.
Yeah.
And it's that same thing I was saying. You guys have been like just absolutely all over Minnesota as far as getting a handle on them. Just feel comfortable with your look there.
Absolutely. I think definitely there's at least 3 or 4 teams that you guys seem to be locked in very much on this year, which is good. It's making us a few early opponents so far. One comment here for us, Adam. I think this is directed at us. Can we start a petition to get Adam Gase fired? Jet fan that is just not excited to watch this team.
Ooh.
Well, first of all, don't
do you
be
want
a
to start or
part-time
will I
fan.
start?
Yeah, don't be a part-time fan. Watch the games because the suffering makes the future glory that much sweeter. Yeah. And second, I think the petition started the day after he was hired, and somehow it just hasn't come into effect yet. But it's certainly out there.
He wasn't here to talk about it, but one of Suma's best bets was the under in that one, and that was a pretty tough one to take. Sam Darnold threw probably one of the best passes of his career back across his body, across the field, and that was a tough one to take. And again, an 80-yard run for the 49ers to open up the game. You're just always in trouble with an under when you get explosive plays. You're just always playing catch-up thereafter. So, Suuma, you'll be back for week 5, and we will talk about it then. Right, top dogs of week 3. So we did treble last week. What did we do? So, Adam, you the Falcons. Still no idea how that lost. Suuma had the Patriots.
1 yard short.
Cam Newton, 1.5 yards short. Top dog in the bottom right of the screen. Raiders. You had them, Drew Dinsick. That was a pretty good show. That was over 2-1 too when we backed it on Wednesday. It's pretty good, and it closed a lot shorter than that, if I'm right. So, Drew, moneyline dog this week. We touched on already. There wasn't so many last week, but if there's one that can not only cover but win the game this week, where are you going?
A lot of short dogs this week.
Yes,
a lot of games that it's gonna take a little bit. It's gonna take a lucky bounce because you got some matchups that are pretty close. I don't mind getting in bed with the New York Giants this week. We talked about how you had to kind of be at least I did a little bit more aggressive adjusting your priors. And it's tough for me to look at this San Francisco roster that is going to be taking the field in New York and not see the 2018 San Francisco 49ers. I mean, at every freaking position, they're back to that team that was, the number 2 overall pick that year. And people are kind of focusing on, is Garoppolo going to be available, or is Nick Mullins going to be available? I am dialed in on, is George Kittle going to be available, because he entirely changes the complexity of what the Niners can do offensively against this Giants defense, which is not great. If I'm San Francisco, am I putting Kittle out there and risking his season on on this turf that just cost me my 2 of my stronger pieces on the defense? No way. So I'm willing to take a a guess and a leap here that Kittle will not be available, or if he is available, he'll be used more of it as a decoy and less as putting him in harm's way. And the defense for this 49ers team, what was their strength, which was, this wave after wave of pass rushers that could just make your life miserable. That spelled trouble for the Giants and their young offensive line, and Danny Dimes, who's a fumble machine. That was a problem. If this game had been played week 1, we would be pounding the table. How can the Niners not be 2 touchdown favorites here? But no Bosa, no Thomas, D Ford injured with, limited with the back, and D Ford hasn't been playing well anyway. I have a difficult time figuring out how the Niners generate any pressure, and the Niners pass, defensive backfield is pretty weak. Sherman, is obviously out for this game, and he was kind of the only guy that was really holding his own among this unit, really last year and this year. So Danny Dimes, I think, is going to have an opportunity to put up some points here. I saw come across the wire that another freaking Giant is going on the IR. Sterling Shepard, apparently.
Yeah, I saw that.
I didn't even know he was. That was a question, but turf toe, he's done.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That was a position of depth. The Giants have a pretty good, deep, young roster of receivers. Danny Dimes has chemistry with all these guys. Ingram as the tight end, especially nice matchup in this game. And honestly, Sack Barkley out. That's addition by subtraction for this offense. He's a boomer bust player, and if you bust on early down running opportunities, and you put Danny Dimes, with the porous offensive line in 3rd and 12, you're in trouble. And so now, just kind of a perfect storm that they're going to have to be more aggressive, and they're going up against the defense that's ailing. So I'll take the Giants to pull off the upset.
I honestly do believe the people that are getting upset about Saquon Barkley are people who took him second in the fantasy draft. That's everything else. It just doesn't point to me. I don't see what the buzz is. I'll be honest. Adam Chernoff, top dog this week. Who do you think could cause an upset?
Let's go with the Detroit Lions on the road at Arizona. Cardinals were 6-point favorites against Washington last week, and now they're 6-point favorites against Detroit this week. I don't know. If anyone's putting the Detroit Lions, as rough as they look due to injuries the first 2 weeks, I don't know if anyone's putting them on the same level as Washington. So start to sort of question what's going on with this price. I think we see a little bit of value here. So I'll go with the Lions, who very well could get Galladay back. Opens up that offense quite a bit against this Cardinals secondary. I think there's a chance in a very high-scoring game that the Lions can sneak an upset.
And that total, I think, went opened, and it lobbed up another 4 or 5 points as well.
That was the Dallas Atlanta of this week, just classic over spot in every regard for sure.
Yeah. I was waiting for that one for 5 weeks. And
you had that one circled.
Those are 2 spicy dog looks. Wow. I like both of those dog looks. My God.
Suma's not here. I'm going to just throw in one as well, just to maybe bump up this treble. I do believe the Chiefs have a chance of causing the upset in Baltimore on Monday night, and that's why I'm going to take them. But then again, I'll be honest.
You're doing
Suuma Pro. Yeah, I think he's on them, isn't he? Yeah, so there you go. So Suuma, you're watching us now today. I'm doing you proud.
I saw something on his Twitter. He thinks the Chiefs are a bit undervalued in the market. That's a great little. I think you're going to be getting about 19.5 to 1 right now on Matchbook. If you are 18.5 to 1, if you take that now, hey, and if the Chiefs lengthen, the next 2-3 days, you might get even more. That'll be a fun triple dog treble to hit.
If you had that running into Monday night, it would be very, very tasty. Jess, I couldn't not see you smiling at Drew's Giants pick there, or a resident New York Giants fan.
I am, but I love. I haven't. I mean, the Danny Dimes thing. I haven't heard that. At the end of this, I'm like, who's the favorite in this game? How can San Francisco even show up here? And it is a classic matchup.
They're bitching about they're bitching about the New Jersey AstroTurf as well, Jesse. Whatever that's. You think you get AstroTurf right in New Jersey, but anyway. All right, gentlemen, let's move on to the final part of this week's show, Week 3's best bets. You nailed the Packers -6 last week, Drew Dinsick. Where are you going for your top selection for Week 3?
Man, That one was right there for the taking.
Oh yeah.
Dang. So best bet this week for me, I'm gonna have to stick with my Tennessee Titans. There's a lot of cases that are being made for your 0-2. 0-2 teams are going to be able to, they're being undervalued by the market. The priors still mean something. I'm enamored with what they're doing offensively in Tennessee, and I think we're going to get to see, and I think that in general, the fact that they played Denver and Jacksonville in two tough spots, week 1 and week 2, was they kept a lid on these guys to a degree, and I think this is a nice look for them to kind of stretch their legs. And AJ Brown back is going to be nice, and Corey Davis emerging has been awesome, and Jonnu Smith, the tight end, that's a three-headed monster in the passing game that I absolutely love. And if you're the Vikings and you're generating zero pass rush and your cornerbacks can be picked on to this degree, you're in deep trouble. So I'll stick with my Tennessee Titans, and still kind of in the mix for me in terms of kind of stealing, threatening that number 1 overall seed in the AFC with the way their schedule sets up. Because if you look down their card, between week 4 and week, I think 11, after this week, they're only going to be on the road one time, and it's at Cincinnati.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. If I told you 2 or 3 years ago, you'd be quite happy to lay the points on the road with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback against the Vikings defense. A lot changes in this league. A lot changes in the sport every couple of years. That's why we love it. Adam Chernoff, best bet this week. What are you thinking?
Saints -3.
Saints -3. Wow. Okay. Ooh. There's a bit of a curveball there since we didn't play it earlier. Okay. Saints -3. I like that.
No,
one.
Yeah, he was making the case for it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Okay, I like that one. Saints -3, a good spot for them, perhaps. Right, Suma's away, so I'm going to take his spot in this one. I am liking the Atlanta team total. If you can get 26 or 26.5, which it currently is around now, because the total is 48. That total may steam up. It did open about 44, 45. I think if you look at this Falcons offense last 2 weeks, if they had won those games, we would be talking pretty favorably about the Falcons. Their defense is absolute trash. We know this. I probably did want to back the main game total there, but I still do have concerns about Mitch Trubisky. Even in week 2, he still only looked okay to me. That being said, he's going against the Falcons defense. So I'm going to take the better half of this. I think the Falcons throw the ball all over this Bears defense. They're quite good against the run, the Bears defense, but I don't think it matters here. They're passing team, the Falcons. So over 26, flat 26, which you can currently get at the moment on the Falcons for their team total. All right. We're out of time, gentlemen. Good show. Jesse, good to have you back on the Matchbook NFL betting podcast. I could see you taking notes. You're possibly emptying your wallet as you're listening to these gentlemen.
I am. And look, it's a pleasure to talk with you guys, but honestly, I would so much prefer just to be on the sidelines with Fabian back and watching and listening. That's what I'll do. Great show, guys, and good luck this week.
Thanks for filling in, Jess, and thank you, Adam. Thank you, Drew. We'll have a very special guest for Week 4 show next week, starting off. I won't reveal his name right now, but rest assured, he's a quality addition to the Matchbook NFL Betting Podcast. Thank you for watching today, or thank you for listening. We will be back for Week 4, as ever, next Wednesday. Go well with your bets, and stay safe.